Good morning, dear students of class 12. Today we are going to continue further the lesson The Enemy part 4. Now before we take up the lesson, let us try to recapitulate what we did in part 3. We did about Dr. Sadau's childhood days, his father, meeting Hannah, incident that day, reaction of the servants, and the treatment of the prisoner of war. The doctor had performed the operation, and after the operation, the most necessary part, that was giving post-operative care to the prisoner of war. On the 6th day, an important development took place, and this development was the servants left the house because they were against Dr. Sadau and Hannah's decision to save the American prisoner of war's life, and the arrival of messengers from the general. And this made Hannah very scared. Now let us further continue part 4 of this lesson. The treatment of general and confiding. So the general's messenger had come because the general needed treatment. So after treating the general, Sadau confides that in his house a prisoner of war, Tom, was staying. The general is sympathetic to Sadau's plight, and he says, I understand fully, but that is because I once took a degree in Princeton. Meaning that this ability to save anyone only makes Sadau more indispensable. Here the general asks if he would be able to survive another attack. The general is more concerned about his illness. Sadau says yes, but only one more. With this in mind, general thinks that he has to protect Sadau at all costs. So Sadau tells the general that there are other surgeons who could perform the operation. The general admits that there are other surgeons, but they are trained by Germans. But he doesn't trust them, as they would consider the operation successful even if the general died. Whereas Sadau has been trained in America, and because of his training in America, he was more sentimental. And here he wishes very subtly, if it were possible even for the Japanese to combine the German ruthlessness with the American sentimentality. So he is indirectly assuring Dr. Sadau that he is going to do something in order to save Dr. Sadau from this problem of harboring an American prisoner of war. Because for him, Sadau's life was very important, as Sadau was going to save his life because he was a skilled doctor. Now, if we analyze this, although the general says, I understand fully, he attributes his understanding to Dr. Sadau's American education. It seems that Sadau had just explained why he felt compelled as a surgeon to save the man's life. Here the general concerns about Sadau's safety are almost comically selfish, because he wants to protect Sadau as Sadau will protect his life. Now, here general extends the character's racist sentiments to Germans. caricaturing and generalizing all Germans as ruthless. At the same time, he paints American as sentimental and soft. He wants the Japanese to take the perfect middle ground, but implies that it's impossible for Japanese to combine the two elements of different cultures. Now, General's assurance is that Tom must be murdered, but this will be done secretly. He asks Sadao for permission to send his private assassins in the night to silently kill Tom and remove his body. Sadao agrees and privately decides that he is not going to tell this to Hannah. And he also thinks that these assassins are required to be kept by the general in an absolute state. How else then the rulers can deal with those who oppose them? Now, if we analyze this, we see Sadao had struggled to keep Tom alive. Now, he wants that Tom should be removed. So it would be a kind of undoing all of his hard work, but he doesn't want to take that much of botheration because it is the safety of his own life and family. Sadao's thoughts about Hannah reveal that he is making decision for her sake also. Meanwhile, Sadao's belief that assassins are essential in absolute state so that people in power have a way to deal with those who oppose them, it reinforces the danger that is of Sadao's decision to illegally shelter and care for Tom, because keeping Tom in the house is going to be very risky and dangerous. He will also be branded as a traitor. Now wait for assassins. When he returns home, he finds Tom is feeling better, but Sadao just tries to examine him and he doesn't think anything else, but he does his duty as a doctor. Tom thanks him and he also says, "If I hadn't met a Japanese like you, I wouldn't have been alive today." But Sadao curtly accepts his thanks and tells him to go back to sleep. But he waits that night for the assassins to come. The assassins did not come. The second night also he waits. The assassins doesn't arrive. And the third night he waits thinking that they would come. But in the morning when he goes to the room, he does find Tom still alive. So the assassins had not come to kill Tom. Now, if we analyze this, here we see that Sadao, he is losing his cool. His conversations turn medical, emphasizing that his occupation as a surgeon is deeply ingrained part of his identity. Even though assassins would be coming, but he still does his duty of examining Tom. But then his wait for assassins night after night makes him more worried. Once again, he tries to live up to his duty as a husband because he wants the assassins to come and finish Tom, who is a source of botheration for the family. Now, finally, Dr. Sadao had to take a decision. He is exhausted, he is tired, he says that he cared, he does not care for the young man's life, but then he fills his boat with supplies, leaves it on the shore, he instructs Tom later that night to take the boat out to the nearest island. The island is also uninhabited since it is fully submerged during some seasons. He tells Tom that he should wait at the island until he sees the Korean fishing boat. Tom is hesitant but knows that he doesn't have much of a choice. Sadao also gives him flashlight and instructs him to flash it twice at dusk if he runs out of food. He should not shine the flashlight at night as it will certainly be seen. Likewise, Tom should not cook any of the fish it catches over the fire, as it would betray his location. Sadao dresses Tom in traditional Japanese garments, covers the boy's blonde hair with black cloth. The two men shake hands in silence and Tom leaves. So we see Sadao is going an extra mile to save Tom now. Now, if we analyze this, Sadao claims that Tom's presence is inconvenient, and yet Sadao goes out of the way to give Tom his own flashlight, boat, supplies, and clothing. Now, normalcy returns. The servants return to the house. Yummy also comes back, and everything is normal. Now Sadao has performed the general's operation, which is successful, and during conversation, general wants to know about the prisoner of war, which Dr. Sadao says has left. The general feels sorry. He makes an excuse that he was not able to send the assassins. He almost forgot, and it was because of his own illness. Now, if we analyze this, we find that again Yummy rushes to get rid the house of any trace of white man, which shows her racist feelings. Then general explanation that he forgot to send the assassins is just an excuse, and Buck leaves this moment for us to interpret that General really did forget to have Tom killed, or was it a lame excuse? Now that night Sadao gazes out at the island. He feels that whatever he has done was a right decision. He could not see Tom's flashlight. That means that Tom is no more on the island. He looks out at the sea and he thinks of all other white people, the dull professor, his wife, and he has a regard for his anatomy professor, and he also remembers the landlady, American landlady, in whose house he had stayed. So he has so much of prejudices for all the Americans. But what was that which helped him, which made him take all the problems, which made him take all the problems and all the take an extra mile in order to save the prisoner of war's life? What was that? Probably he was not able to get a sound reply. Now, if we analyze this, we see that Sadao is most critical of America. He hasn't changed profoundly. White man's Tom's repulsive face is still in his mind, but then the human angle is there. Sadao has returned, although to his own prejudiced mindset, but it gives a reader a kind of hope that probably, given a chance, he would turn again towards kindness. So we'll quickly recapitulate part 4. Dr. Sadao's childhood days, father, meeting Hannah, incident that day, reaction of the servants, treatment of the prisoner of war, operation, post-operative care, 6 days development, servants leave, messengers arrive.